Hey, I'm Kyle Poehling. I am the UI UX lead at PreSonus, and I recorded the River City session with Alfred Banks. Alfred is a New Orleans-based rapper that I was able to record the same day as the Tank and the Banga session. This was just one mic and a backing track, so from the tracking standpoint, it was very easy. We used the PD-70, so once again, just a dream to track vocalists with, especially in a setting outside like this where a car could drive by, a fire engine could go by, whatever. Thankfully we didn't have any of those things happen, but it was just very easy to track. We ran the lines out to the setting in the courtyard. I got the iPad and ran out there one more time, made sure that he was hearing his levels with his voice good enough. I ran back inside, hit record, and we did it in like 2 takes. So when I first opened a studio in the early 2000s, I basically existed on mixtapes and lots of rappers coming through my studio every day. And so I got really good at mixing MCs, and it was something I haven't done in a long time. But I really like Alfred's music. It was really fun. So while he only had one track, I was able to dupe that track a number of times, and I was able to treat things like the little pre-chorus shout-out, the actual chorus shout-out, and the verses very differently. So I was able to apply different EQ and different compression, different panning to really give you this like dynamic performance that all came from one mic. So a lot of stuff that you're hearing, and even on one point in the chorus, I have delay on it. So you're hearing what sounds like, you know, him repeating himself, and it's actually a little bit more delay and reverb, so it gives us the big space. But I was really happy with specifically how I was able to treat the difference between the pre-chorus, the chorus, and the verse EQ wise. So the EQ on the verse is very present and very upfront, so it really feels like he's talking to you, you know, right to you, real personal. And then the verse is a little bit, it's got a little more reverb and a little, you know, it's a little bit bigger, so it's a wider spread, and I've also got it duped so that it's on the sides. And it was just, oh man, it was such a fun time mixing this track. It was. Often people think that like, oh yeah, it's just easy, it's one mic, but you know, the stuff that you can do with one track to give it body and depth is really exciting and fun and creative. You can do all kinds of things, and Studio One allows for a lot of that, especially with the splitter plugin, where you can do all kinds of cool stuff, treating one track differently. There are some really cool videos on how to do that well, and it's a super time saver. There are ways in traditional DAWs to do that involve a whole bunch of other tracks and side chaining and all kinds of different stuff, but the splitter tool kind of lets you do it all right in that track. It's really fantastic. I think one of the best pieces of advice that I got from a friend who's an engineer and worked in New York with like Busta Rhymes and like all these heavy dudes in the late 90s and early 2000s was don't be a wimp with EQ. And he didn't use the word wimp, but like he just said don't go light on EQ. Like if anything, go heavy and then dial it back to taste. Another thing that is huge in this world is automation. And what I mean by that is you gotta ride vocals, and you gotta get micro about it. Because there are plosives and there are things that happen in specific rappers' lines that may destroy the dynamics of a track. Meaning, they come in hard on one syllable, and if you're not gonna take care of that one syllable, the ability for you to raise that vocal and get what I was talking about with that really present vocal on, especially on a verse, and something you want to be very upfront and intimate, so to speak, it destroys that. So you have to really be careful and go in and do crafty automation with levels. And it may be like a couple samples. You know, you may be getting in really tight on one little tiny syllable that just popped through, and sometimes different syllables hit really hard. So it may not even be that it's actually that loud, it's that the phonetics of that syllable are really sharp and for whatever reason pop through the mix. In order to get a great mix in this genre, you really want to make sure that you're paying close attention to your automation on the vocals. Big shout out and thanks to Alfred Banks for joining us on this River City session. It's a true joy. For more River City sessions, check us out at PreSonus.com.